What's up, guys, and welcome back to HARDCOURT After Dark. Today I have a guest who is a student of mine, but also a business owner. She owns her own pilates studio and plays tennis pretty much every day. But we are going to be having her on the actual HARDCOURT podcast at some point, but I wanted to actually take a little bit before to talk to her off the set of all the other stuff that we do. So this is Miss Emily Wagner of MJ Pilates.
Hello.
Perfect intro. Lady, a few words. Today's thing is going to be all about tennis and the emotions that come along with being a tennis player. Whether you're male or female, junior to adult, recreational player to professional, there's a whole lot that goes into the emotional state when it comes to being any type of athlete, but especially a tennis player, because when you play tennis, there's a lot that goes into the fact that you're by yourself. You have to manage your emotions yourself. You don't have a team unless you're playing doubles, but even then it's only one person. There's just so many things that go with it that a lot of people don't really understand unless you've been in this environment as long as we have, because I've been teaching you for what,
6 years.
6 years at this point, but you've been playing tennis for way longer than that.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell people, but I mean realistically, what's your playing experience up till now, and then just how it's gone emotionally? Because I've been around for most of it.
Right. Well, I did start playing when I was very young. At about 5 years old, there was a man in our community who gave free tennis lessons every Friday night of the summer. So I started playing from little on up, played competitively in high school and in college, and then real life happened, worked a full-time job where I didn't really have the opportunity or the free time to play tennis. So I took about 12 years off from the sport, and then when I started my own business and had a little more flexibility of my own schedule, I decided to start playing again. So now it has been 6.5 to 7 years since I've been back on court, and yeah, emotions have run the gamut. I would say when I was in high school and college, I had much more of a temper than I do now.
Very mild-mannered. I mean, I've seen you get upset at yourself, but not really at others too often.
Yeah.
What do you mean when you say like you were hot-headed back then, or you had more of a temper back then?
The expression of my frustration with myself was more like slamming rackets on the court.
Oh,
and
you were one of those.
One of those.
Gotcha.
So that I do feel has I've tempered that.
Yeah, I'd say that you're very mild-mannered. The most I've seen you do is get mad at yourself, and it kind of manifests itself as being like more quiet.
Yeah, it's more internal now than externally throwing rackets.
Yeah, I don't think you've thrown a racket in my direction yet. I'm going to try to retire.
You just wait.
I'm going to try to retire without having a racket go my way. So you said you did that in high school and college, and then there was 12 years between then and now.
Yeah.
Why did you start playing again?
I was looking for something cardio to do. I was looking for something a little more competitive to do. I've always been a competitor in sports, and Pilates is an amazing form of exercise, but it doesn't have that component to it.
You did soccer too, right?
So I had taken lessons at this facility when I was 15, 16, so I was familiar with it and just thought this would be a good thing to get back into, not really realizing how addictive it is and how it would become such an integral part of my life.
I feel like everybody has some type of addiction that they deal with, both positive and negative though. Like there are people who do drugs and drink, but there are also people who work out all the time, or people who play their sport nonstop.
Yeah.
So everybody has something that they put themselves into.
Well, and I think with tennis, there's just so much to learn. And so if you really start to get into it with a coach, there are so many levels to the game and layers to the game. And I think sometimes that's what leads to emotional ups and downs.
That's true.
I started at a level where I could beat pretty much anyone I was on court with. As I got better, then I'm playing with better competitors. My winning is not as frequent.
Right.
So there are ups and downs, like getting stronger, feeling like I'm playing better, results aren't matching that. That's what I think is really hard for a tennis player, is to find like an equal expectation versus result, and being okay when those two things aren't balanced.
That's true. I definitely feel like that's a thing that comes with being better. Like when you're a newbie at anything, your level of expectation is zero. So any success is good. But then as you get better, you start to kind of expect a certain level from yourself all the time.
Right.
And you can't maintain that no matter what. So your emotions kind of run high just because you're like, well, yesterday I could do this, or I should be able to do this by now. And now you're kind of doing that comparative thing. I feel like the comparative thing is the thing that really gets people to start getting a little more hot-headed. They start looking at their peers more. Like, think about it. When you were young and learning to drive, did you compare yourself to the drivers around you? No. But when people get older, like, I'm a way better driver than that person. Like, I can't believe this person doesn't know how to do this. Or you don't know how to merge. You don't know how to use your turn signal. Like, road rage is a thing, but road rage is usually stemmed from somebody doing something that somebody else expects them to know how to do.
Yeah.
So, like, knowing how to merge lanes, or knowing how to shift from lane to lane, or you're driving too slow or you're driving too fast. That's the same thing. It's once you start feeling like you're good enough, then you start looking at everybody else as being better or not as good.
Yeah.
Oh, look, the lights finally came back. But for me, as a coach, seeing you get better, I've also been like part of the frustrations that you've had when you feel like you should have something by now, or you go through those spells of when you're losing while working on something, and it's kind of tough to figure out how to, factor in like where you should be versus what you're working on. There are people who are losing all the time, but they're happy because they're like, well, this thing that I care about is actually getting better. Then there are people that are losing and can't handle it, even if they're not working on something. Like they don't understand, and you've seen some of those people where it's serious from the time they step on the court, and at the end it's supposed to be a sport that you enjoy, because most people that you play with aren't going pro, but they just cannot mentally handle the fact that something's not going the way that they should. So how's it been emotionally since your comeback? Because I feel like, like I just said, like you weren't super serious when you were younger. I mean, you were on a team and you were competitive, but like I feel like, and I don't know you from back then, but I feel like you're way more serious now than you were then.
For sure. Because I think in my younger tennis days, I relied on athleticism and camaraderie of teammates to, that's kind of what motivated me to play. And as now coming back, I'm more focused on skills and learning new techniques and learning to slice and learning to serve better. And so, whereas competition drove me in my youth, now it's more learning and applying what I learn and just playing with a good caliber of opponent and having fun. But still having that competitive gene in my body. That's
it needs to be fun.
Yeah.
And we have people that you and I both know that it's their job to play tennis. It's not their hobby. It's not their recreational thing. It's like they have to do it, both junior and adult.
Yeah.
And some people just don't know how to find that proper balance to get better but enjoy getting better. I feel like you've, for the most part, figured out a good balance to it. You still have your days of frustration, which everybody will have, but I feel like you bounce back from it faster than some other people that I know.
Right. And there is the other emotion of like the tennis high, where I mean, for an hour, you can hit 500 balls.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's no other feeling like that, to be able to just go at something, be completely focused, where you're not thinking about anything else about your business that you're trying to run or the house that you're trying to keep in order at home. So there's definitely that high feeling too when you're playing.
The liberation you get when, especially when it's, like, people say like you're in the zone.
Yeah.
When you're not thinking and everything just feels really good. And then for like an hour, you're like, I wish it always felt like this.
Yeah.
And tomorrow it doesn't.
Right.
But I mean, for me specifically, when I was first learning to play and I first started getting serious, I used to do a little mental trick with myself specifically for that. Like whenever I felt like I was playing good, like today feels really, really good, I would say that from now on, this is my bad day. So I would do a mental trick with myself where I'd be like, from now on, if I'm playing like this, I'm going to get frustrated because I want to play better than this and not drop below how good this feels.
I like that.
Because for me, and it worked, and I would be chasing that, and then eventually it worked in terms of it became my baseline. Like from now on, I'm this good all the time, and I'm going to get better. And then I'd figure out 2 or 3 things with the way I hit, and then this would feel great. And I'd be like, well, from now on, this is what it feels like when I'm playing badly. And now I have to chase something that's even better feeling than this.
Yeah. I think we discussed this throughout my 6 years working with you. The initial jump between the level that I started at and then like 6 months into it was a big spike. Mm-hmm. And then I remember telling you, like, I feel like I'm not getting any better. It felt like I was plateauing. But you taught me that the increments, they might be smaller as you get better.
Yep.
And that was also something like I needed to mentally be okay with, because it just felt like I went from 0 to 100, and then from 100 to 102 felt like a struggle. Because that first jump was so big.
The tennis high.
Yeah. So, getting through that plateau, and then there's another thing that you get. Like, as soon as I got that slice, then it felt like I made another big jump. Mm-hmm. But then it's like perfecting the slice and directing the slice. And, there are just so many intricacies of tennis that, the increments of your progress can also affect your emotions. Oh, yeah. Like if you don't really sit back and look at it big picture.
One of the things that I noticed is with people who take it really seriously, that expectation that it should be like this by now is a problem. Which is essentially what you were saying. Like you felt like you made these massive jumps and then you expected, well, I'm really good at this, so the jumps should maintain like that. And they do, but the jumps can be big and then small and then small and then small and then another big thing. And it becomes more like steps than it does a slope.
Yeah.
And a lot of players that take it seriously, they start, and for juniors specifically, their parents are the worst with it. They'll expect like, well, they just learned this and now they're here, so that incline should just continue. Or you'll constantly hear, they should know this by now, or I should know this by now. And not necessarily. You're working on it. Doesn't mean you're not going to get it. It just means you're going to get it when you do get it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people on that spectrum just don't understand, especially for people who have not done this, they don't understand how much different it is because you're doing it on your own.
Right. Oh, for sure.
Like when you play basketball and you're having an off game, your coach can literally pull you out and your stats will stay the same.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, you didn't go any higher, but like your attempts from the free throw line don't tank. Your attempts from the 3-point, your drives, your rebounds, all that stuff, none of that stuff changes because you're not playing. It's the same as being out on an injury. Like nothing changes. But with tennis, if you're on the court, you are obligated to be on the court until that match is over.
Yeah.
So every miss, you feel it.
And I feel like what we've talked about so far emotionally is kind of what's happening on court while I'm learning, off court while I'm thinking about it. Like in the midst of a match is also a whole new ball game.
Oh yeah.
I always look to Venus Williams. She's my favorite player. And I remember commentators saying, you can watch her and not know if she's winning or losing a match. You look at her sister and you know exactly what's happening. And I have always felt more along the Serena line, where I show my emotion while I'm playing. And I've always wanted to emulate more of the Venus, like just no emotion either way. So I think on court also, when you're in the midst of a match is a whole different ball game. And
oh yeah, I was watching highlights from a tournament last year, or it might have been recent. But Zverev and Tsitsipas were playing, and neither one of them are like known for being like hotheads. Like they're pretty level most of the time. But Zverev got called for a serving violation, like a time violation, and he lost his mind. But it was because not only did he get called for a time violation that he legitimately didn't deserve, like they showed the replay and everything, and he was right. But it was on break point. It was on break point at like 4-3, like all those things. Like now you're spiking somebody's emotions where they feel like they've been wronged. It's no different than having a bad line call. And he made the tournament. He bypassed the ref and was like, the tournament director needs to come out here, and like he was hot. But here's what happened. The argument was that Zverev was sitting there bouncing the ball on the baseline well ahead of the time, but Stefano wasn't at the baseline, so he couldn't serve. So Stefano got to the baseline when he had like 5 seconds left. And then he starts bouncing the ball and doing what he's supposed to do, and then they called the time violation on him. And he's like, I've been here for the whole 20 seconds. But so rightfully so, he was pissed off, but at the same time it was, you never see him get that upset. But then you compare that to somebody like Nick Kyrgios, who's pissed off because it starts being windy, which nobody can control. But I mean, the results of those type of emotional spikes can sometimes sway the outcome of events. Some people can't recover from one moment. One of my students that you practice with all the time, which is Chase, you know he wears every feeling out on his sleeve. Like you can tell how mad he is, how happy he is the second he's there, mostly upset. But one thing that he has trouble doing is he really struggles to bounce back from anything that happens that doesn't go his way. He'll be winning a match. I've seen it. He'll be winning a match 5-0, 30 love, miss-hit a ball, and he'll lose the next 3 games because he doesn't know how to mentally regroup from that thing that happened. Yeah. And it makes it so bad when he doesn't know how well he's doing, and he doesn't know how to bounce back. And he plays competitively way more than I do. And me trying to get back into tournament play, I've had like my level of frustrations and stuff, but like I've streamed some of the matches where like people see me laughing when I make bad mistakes. Yeah. But it helps me like mentally recover from that stuff quickly, and a lot of people just don't understand how difficult that is for some people. Yeah.
Also, being able to read the emotions of your opponent can be very helpful.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that completely changed my tactic. You can keep talking. I'm just going to go change something really quick. Good. I'm still in the room for anybody who's wondering.
But I just remember moments playing, when I played USTA as an adult and would play like a high school girl. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I could see frustration on her person, I was like, yep, I'm winning this match, because I knew I could.
Time to throw in the drop shot.
Right? I could maintain my composure better than she could. And sometimes that's all it takes. Like, at some point, it's not even about skill, it's about who can maintain composure and what you can do to make that person continuously get more frustrated and
drop shot.
Right. Loopy ball.
Oh, but seriously. How many times have you heard a person say, I lost because that person was a pusher?
Right.
Like, all they did was just get the ball in the court, and then I would miss. Oh, well, don't miss.
Right.
Obviously, they're not missing. Like, you can play the pusher game back and forth, but the level of for whatever reason, the level of frustration that a pusher pulls out of people, they're like their own species.
Oh, yeah.
Like, anytime you play somebody that's just content to keep the ball in the court, like, it makes certain players skin crawl. Like, they just don't know how to handle it. And for somebody to go on an emotional roller coaster with somebody that's literally doing nothing to you,
Right.
it's so funny to watch as a coach now. Not as a player. As a player, same thing.
Right.
But as a coach, watching somebody just lose their mind because they're playing against a certain skill set is hilarious to me. Like, I don't get upset when I watch it. I get, like, every now and then, like, if I'm mishitting against somebody where that happens, I'll get a little frustrated. But even me, it's like 2 points of frustration and then I'm done. But for some people, they just don't know how to manage it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've seen, like, I know all of your practice partners. I'd say Ben's probably, like, the most comparable. Like, he can crank the ball when he wants to, but most of the time when I see Ben play, he's very content to be a few feet behind the baseline and just keep it in play. Now, he's hitting the ball.
Right.
He's primarily just keeping the ball in play, and most people will mess up before he does. There's a couple people that he has trouble beating, but most people, him just staying back behind the baseline and just rolling balls in the court is more than good enough.
Yeah.
Ben's got a good serve, too, though, and he's a lefty. I can't stand lefties most of the time. But it's hilarious when you see those people just implode against that skill set.
Yeah.
So we're getting off a little bit, but at the same time, emotionally speaking, what do you think certain people don't understand about the sport?
Just how many decisions go into one shot. Just like the mental toll that tennis takes on you. It is a super smart sport. And
Supposed to be.
right.
Not
everyone.
We've seen dumb tennis players.
Right. If you're playing at a elevated level, there should be some intellect going into it. And you can be playing your absolute best and still be losing.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you said this on your last After Dark, like, most tennis players are losing matches. At the French Open, there is one winner.
Yep.
Like, you lose so much more than you win. Harkening back to the NBA, you have a season of over 100 games. You're most likely going to win more than 30 or 40. Like, you're still winning more than you're lose. Well, maybe not, but you're winning enough.
But even still, within because it's not a tournament.
Yeah.
Like, you have a season, so you have plenty of opportunities to win. It's just a coin flip of who walks away with the win on any given day.
Yeah.
But comparatively to that, tennis versus basketball, I feel like there's more factors to being able to work around that. Like, in tennis, like you just said, you can be playing the best match of your life and still lose. In basketball, you can be playing the best game of your life, but you not be the right person to be on the court right now. And they'll pull you because, you're scoring a lot, but your defense is trash and they're getting past you every time.
Yeah.
So, like, the ability to have more moving parts in basketball makes tennis so much more of a cerebral thing.
Yeah.
Because like you have to sort out, even though you're playing amazingly, what are the things that still aren't working? And a lot of times tennis people understand that better than the average person who watches tennis and says, oh, I could do that. By the way, you can do that, just not as good as we can. Like, and that's like, who said it? Venus said it. Venus said it in her interview, her match interview. She was like, most of the people asking me these questions are not as good as me and never will be. And I was like, you are right.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the thing. Somebody from the outside looking in at any sport, and I've played multiple sports, so I can say this. Every sport that I ever played, there was so much more to it that I didn't understand until I started playing it. There was things that I thought were easy, that I thought were simple, that I thought I'd pick up quickly, and I didn't get it as much as I thought I would. I got it eventually, but not to an NBA level, not to an NFL level. I'm a good shooter, really good dribbling skills, but at the same time, there are thousands of people that do it better than me. And I would not look at any person who's better than me and say they got that easy, because I know how long it took me to do the things that I can do. And tennis is different only in the fact that you have to be able to do everything.
Right.
Basketball or football or soccer, you're put into positions that make you shine or disappear. So you have somebody that's 7'3" that plays center in basketball. That's because they're 7'3" and they can jump. You don't know if that person can shoot. You don't know if that person can dribble. You're putting them in the position where you feel like they're going to do the best. You don't get to see the other things that they do. In tennis, you're going to have to demonstrate your ability or lack thereof in every shot you own at some point. If you suck at the net, somebody's going to make you go there.
Yeah.
If you suck at serving, you have to serve half the time. If you suck at returning, you have to return half the time.
And a Diego Schwartzman at 5'6" is going to face a John Isner at whatever his height is, 7'1". And
dumb tall, 8'15".
and you have to play each other.
There's no argument or any stepping around it. Like, you have to be able to demonstrate the skills that are needed on a certain day. And you might not need those skills again for another 2-3 weeks. But on this day, you have to be able to return a 150 mile an hour serve, or you lose.
Not to mention, I think it's the only sport, right, that has multiple surfaces.
Oh yeah.
They are completely different from each other.
No, I think you're right. I mean, there's like...
or AstroTurf versus grass.
Yeah, there's turf and grass, but there's indoor basketball and outdoor basketball, but that's about it.
Still a hard floor. You know, like the surface for the high level players who are winning multiple tournaments on various surfaces, that's incredible to me.
Oh yeah, and
it's a completely different game.
And the ability to adapt that takes emotional and mental maturity. Like, realizing that you suck on a certain surface and having the maturity to go work on that versus just say, oh, well, this part of the season's only 5 weeks, so I'll just bypass that. I mean, think about it. We're in the grass season right now. The grass season is very short. There's like 3 or 4 tournaments, and then you're immediately... Like, Wimbledon and the French Open are very close together.
Yeah.
Like, Australia happens way early, and then there's just all this gap between then and the French, but... Like, Wimbledon and the French happen very quickly. And the thing that sucks is you're going from the slowest surface to the fastest surface.
Right.
And yeah, it's for me, it's very interesting to watch certain players that you think are amazing, and then you change the surface, and it's comical how bad they become. I like Sinner, but did you see what happened to him at his first tournament? The dude fell like 8 times.
Yeah.
Like, he had a mid-court forehand where he just fell on his face. And that, I mean, talk about emotional maturity, that's embarrassing.
Right.
Like, I'm picking on Chase, but I know if that happened to Chase, that'd be the end of that match.
Right.
Like, he's not recovering from falling on his face.
Yeah.
But, like, just the surface change makes a big difference. So, I mean, with basketball or football or baseball or tennis really tests your ability to manage a certain level of skills all at once, and then 2 weeks later you have to change your whole skill set in order to be able to continue to perform.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so impressive that certain people are dominant at a certain level. But
even the scoring itself can be super frustrating, because you could lose a match 6-love, 6-love, but every game went to deuce.
scoreline looks like trash.
The scoreline looks embarrassing. Like, you can leave the court feeling so embarrassed, but you really only lost, what, 6 more point or 12 more points than the other person?
Oh yeah.
If you're getting to deuce every time. Like, it can be a matter of just a few points here and there that doesn't show on the score line. So if you're not a tennis player and you're looking just at scores, it can appear very different. And then the other thing can happen where every game is 40-love, and it's still going to only show.
That's the funny part. Like, when have you ever talked to somebody and they'll tell you the score and like, oh yeah, but you know, like every game went to deuce, and you can tell they're lying.
Right.
I mean, speaking of emotional maturity, I mean, like, some people can't stand to have that level of embarrassment of a bad score.
Yeah.
So like, when you have a bad score, they're immediately defending the bad score.
Yeah.
I've seen people get waxed and then come off and tell me, well, you know, I thought I played pretty good. I will not say her name because of anonymity.
Right.
But I've had students as well as just people that I knew that would get trashed and then come off and tell you the opposite of what happened.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have the emotional maturity to acknowledge the fact that you did something wrong or that person outplayed you. You just have to have an excuse. I mean, there's a lady that you practice with where every time she's losing, there's a reason she's losing. It can't just
wind, the sun. It's the same sun that I deal with.
Right. And it makes me laugh when I hear it. But like, there's some people that just don't know how to deflect that attention. They have to be either winning or there's an excuse on why they lost. It's not, I had a bad day. It's not the other person was good. It's, oh, well, I lost because my elbow was bothering me, or I lost because I didn't sleep well, or my neck was hurting. That surface was trash. The lighting was bad.
Right.
It makes me laugh. But, I mean, let's take a turn a little bit. You personally have dealt with, I'd say, more emotional stuff than some people would. How is tennis, and you can talk about it on your own if you want to, but how has tennis helped you with those challenges specifically? Because I feel like with the relationship that me and you have on the court, tennis has become a good outlet for you as well.
Yeah,
when things aren't going well or smoothly off the court.
Yeah. If you read Andre Agassi's biography, and I mean, so many people say it, like, tennis and life really mirror each other in many ways, and he even broke it down to like the language that is used in tennis, right? Advantage, serve, love. Like, these are all, a lot of them are verbs that we use in our own life. And I know we talked early on, like, my play style really mimicked the way I lived life, kind of timid, waiting for things to happen to me, waiting for an opponent to make a mistake, like not taking control of a point, of a game, of the way I'm even moving around the court. I was still sometimes a reactive player, and it kind of mimicked my life. I'm a very ambitious person.
Yeah, you started your own business.
I started my own
Full credit to
business,
you.
but at the same time, I didn't always stand up for myself. I just played a lot like I live, and I am a very emotional person. I'm a very sensitive person. So I think that also kind of came into my tennis as well, where I would get frustrated really easily and not recover as quickly. And I think both things have kind of balanced each other out. So I think the confidence that I gained on the tennis court to take more control, to take advantage of the strengths that I have on court, I feel like I'm a much more confident person.
I would agree with that.
Outside of the tennis court, whether it be in my business or just like knowing when I'm starting to feel a little off, and maybe that means I do need to get out on the tennis court and go to the ball machine and hit 500 balls in an hour to get that energy out.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to hit the ball hard and let frustration out.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've had lessons like that where I could tell when you came in that you were a little bit off and you needed like that first 10 minutes to kind of just let whatever you needed to let go.
Yeah. And some days with whoever I'm hitting with, some days we'll both kind of agree, you know what, let's not even play for score today. Let's just hit the ball. Like we both agree, like we just want to get a good workout. You know, tennis can be different things at different moments. But yeah, I think the confidence I've gained on court has transferred outside of that, for sure.
I can definitely attest to seeing in the course of 6 years with you that you've changed a lot on and off the court. Like your social circle of tennis players has gotten better, and
for sure,
being that you're playing with those people, I can see the confidence in kind of having a then and now approach. Like you remember what it was before and now you can see what it is. Even though you have more difficulty, you understand why it's more difficult now versus when you were a little more not mature tennis wise. Where when I say not mature, I mean like your skills weren't where they are now. Your frustration would show very quickly because you were used to these things, which you always did well. Now you have to kind of reassess everything, and then you start playing with people who are better, and you're upset because you're losing. Then you're playing with those better people, and now you're playing even with them, and you can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then I'm like, all right, well now that these people are easier, well, forget about them, go find somebody else. And then you have to start the process all over again.
Yeah.
Frustrated because you're losing, happy because you're getting closer, understanding how to adjust things with a new group of people. I feel like now your competitive circle is like almost perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost perfect, where you have times when you're losing, you have times when you're winning, you have times when you're playing even and you're working on stuff. You have that like gradient of what you need on any given day.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, shame on you all who do this, but a lot of people don't get out of their social circle of tennis, and then they are like, well, I feel like I should be better by now. No, you should. Because you're not testing yourself to need to be better. Like even if you have lessons every week and your coach is trying to help you, unless you're going to put yourself in a situation where you actually need that next level of skills, you're not going to advance as a player at the speed that you would like to, because you don't register what is actually a thing that needs to change. I can't, like, I'm going to be doing another podcast on this one pretty soon, but people who want to get better versus people who want to be good. But there are people who come to a lesson and they're like, I want to fix my serve. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't want to fix your serve. You want me to give you a tip on how to make this current crappy serve less crappy. If you want me to fix your serve, this is going to take a while.
Yeah.
You said you want one lesson where you fix your serve. You don't want that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and those are the people that want to get better. They want to take the thing that they have and tweak it just enough so that there's a marginal increase in it. And you can do that, but the amount of tweaks you can make are very small. Versus somebody who says they want to be good. Somebody who says they want to be good is willing to walk backwards like 5, 10, 15 steps to make that progress. Like when I started working with you, and I was like, the first thing we got to do is we have to change your grip on your serve.
Yeah.
And you about lost your mind for a month.
Yeah.
But you understand, like I asked you that like within like the first few lessons of us working together was, what are we trying to achieve? Because if it's just you want to come out and have a social lesson, I can do that. But if you want to achieve ABC, even if you're not going to compete, but you just want to have a better competitive circle, these are the things that would have to change. And some people don't have the maturity to actually admit which one they want.
Yeah.
And also, they don't have the maturity to leave their coach if the coach is not going to give them the thing that they want. There are a lot of people who are stuck with bad coaching, expecting this amazing result at the end because they haven't been honest about either what they want, or they're not honest about whether the person that they're with can give them what they want. And I mean, it's no different than a breakup. It's, you have to have the maturity to go and say, this is why I'm here and this is why I'm leaving. And a lot of people can't say those things to themselves first. Like, I want to be a professional player, but I'm hitting at a country club with a 80-year-old coach who just stands next to a cart and kind of just pokes the ball to me. It's probably not going to happen. You have to put yourself in that environment, and some people just don't have that level of maturity yet.
Yeah.
Also, some people are very honest about what they want, but they're not honest about whether they're willing to do the things that it takes to have that. Not you, obviously. But I mean, like, there was a point when you were working really hard and then you were like, I think I'm good now. And I was like, if that's the case, it's cool. But then you were like, no.
Right.
I want to keep, again, it's no different than anything else. But in the long run, where do you see your tennis kind of going? Because right now you're at a high recreational competitive level.
Yeah.
What do you think the next step is for you?
Tournaments.
Yeah,
and that's where the emotions will get tested, because, you know, it is recreational now. I'm hitting with people that I'm friends with, and that it really doesn't matter what the score is at the end. And it's more about the process and, you know, working on things that we work with in my lesson, trying to practice that. And being okay if you mess up a little bit because you're working on something. It's like now I feel like I'm ready to take all of this knowledge, all of these skills that I've built, and really test it out against people I don't know. I don't know their game style. I have to really just put myself out on the line. It's all that confidence building. It's like, what am I building it for? Mm-hmm. And I feel like a tournament schedule is the next logical step.
The best part about playing tournaments is you control it more. Like, if you have a bad tournament, you can take 3 months to work on the thing before you play again.
Yeah.
Versus when people join USTA teams or leagues where you're kind of like committed to a 8-week span or a 12-week span because you joined a team, and when you join a team, it's kind of a thing where they require you to do those things.
Yeah.
So, and also, if you have a great tournament, you can register for one the next week and try and continue with that momentum. So you have more control over how much you're making yourself do or how much you're willing to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, the tournament life can be cyclical, and I feel like people don't understand that. They're like, I am playing this tournament, and then I'm playing the next tournament, and I'm playing the next tournament, and there's not really any goal other than the next tournament. Yeah, your ranking goes up a little bit, your rating goes up a little bit, but it's like, for what? Like, there either needs to be the next step in that, or are you just playing just to play, which is fine, but just be honest about it.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. Like, I think Christian's a perfect example. Christian is content to have his practice partners, go to work, take his lunch break and play, and then go back to work.
Yeah.
Like, he's not out there chasing anything, and he's happy with where he is. And that is perfectly fine. But then you have other people, I'd say like Michelle, who are competing all the time, training all the time, but I'd say won't take that step beyond where they are, even though I'd say in my mental case, I'd say she should put herself in a more difficult scenario
Yeah.
versus knowing every person that you're going to play by name and just
Yeah.
saying, well, when I play this person, this is what I need to do. When I play this person, this is why I need to hit to this side, or this they always hit moon balls, so I need to practice this thing. Like, but you're learning how to beat a person. You're not learning how to beat a play style. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which means, like, let's say next year that team picks up new people. Now you, who've only learned to play this person, now have to sort out skills that you haven't asked yourself to do. And a lot of people don't make that. I'd say don't give themselves that stepping stone mentality where I'm doing this so that I can do this, or they're not honest about the fact that this is what I want to do and only this. And I feel like that's one of the challenges I have with older players. Like junior players kind of understand, like, I'm working to go to play for college, or I'm working to play on my high school team. Like, they have these very tangible goals, and I feel like on the adult side there's not as much. And it doesn't have to be super out there, but it's just like, I want to win a national title with my 4-5 team. Cool. Now you guys have something you're all collectively working towards, and then if that happens, are we going to try to repeat, or are we going to try to move up and do it at the 5-0? Like, I feel like people don't map themselves out the same way.
Yeah.
So then your frustration comes in when you're like, well, I've been winning against this person for this long, and now I'm losing to them. Well, it's because the person that you're playing against has a different mentality than you. I give you full credit, which I've said to you multiple times. When I first met you and you were doing ladies team tennis, you were playing even against some of the worst players in the building. And now you're hands down one of the best female players that is at this facility. And it's mainly because of just having that stepping stone mentality. Like, I've done this, now I want to do this. I've done this, now I want to play these people. And then those other people don't have that same mentality, but then they're like mad that you got better.
Right.
And that you don't want to play with them.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is you end up having people that are stagnant that still want to play with the person that isn't stagnant. And then they're frustrated when they lose. But I think that's actually going to be close to our time. But she'll definitely be on for the normal HARDCOURT.
Yes.
Right.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, Miss Emily, would you like to tell these people where they can find you?
My Pilates studio is called MJ Pilates. That's EMJPILATES.com.
All right. And we will see you guys in the next one.